Michelle King with Michelle King Coaching and the Magicking Center. Thanks so much for joining me today. I wanted to share a little bit more about the mastery and magicking process and really what authentic power means. So when I'm speaking of the mastery process, we're really talking about the integration of our human and spiritual nature. These are all aspects of mind because everything begins in consciousness, right? So we're talking about the conscious, subconscious, and the superconscious mind, or self, soul, and source. Self being the aspect of the lower mind, our human nature, our ego. It's rooted in judgment and condition. And that's normal, right? It's more physical in nature, like our body, our human experience, right? And without our physical body, our soul wouldn't have the avenue to have experiences and relationships to experience itself, because we are consciousness experiencing itself. And so in order for us to have contrast, we absolutely need the physical for that. So it's just like if you think about when you have this inspired thought, maybe it's to publish a book, you take that thought and you put it into action, right? You write it all out, there's a process to that, and then you ultimately publish it out into the world, and you're not in control of how other people experience that, right? So anything that you physicalize will be judged in a way. Some people will like it, some people won't. Some people will know about it, some people won't. Some people will, have an opinion, that kind of thing. So it's always going to be conditioned. Whatever we are experiencing in the physical world, inherent in our human nature, it's going to have the yin and the yang aspect, the light and the shadow, right? So it's always going to be that way. So really want you to remember that, because as we, expand into our soul nature, guided by our intuition, that's more energetic in nature, right? So it's less physical and more energetic. It's the unseen aspects. It's those ideas that you get, those nudges, those impulses, all aspects that you experience through your intuition that are aligning you with source, the truth of who you are, rooted in abundance, wholeness, vitality, everything that you see and experience and know about nature, right? So it's because nature is all about balance and vitality, thriving, whereas our human nature is about surviving. So it looks, for all the problems in order to survive, which is part of, our experiences. So it's not about dismissing that or rejecting that. It's about integrating that. And we do that by being able to understand these qualities, acknowledge them, and resource our free will or our power to choose, to bring consciousness to these aspects, which begins in mind, which begins in understanding these qualities. So the mastery process is about bringing awareness to our human nature, which is rooted in judgment, rooted in condition. And when we do, we're like, oh, I see you, this is a belief, this is a construct of thought based on, what was inherited in my life or what I experienced through conditions in my life. And if this is something you're ultimately being nudged to change or transform, then it's an opportunity to dive into this lake of consciousness, resource your creative intelligence to heal, transform, manifest, inspire, and lead within yourself, and then ultimately realize that through your experience of life. So the mastery process, again, is about integrating these levels of mind. You can also think of it as the experiencer, the self, the human nature, the observer, the soul, right? The heightened awareness or expanded levels of awareness, the observer of the experiencer at the same time. And then source, this is like the core of your being, the true essence of your nature, is the creator of your reality, right? And I also love to think of the mind as a crystal. And so you can also think of the self as the part that creates the stories to make meaning. And what's really captivating to me and fascinating about this is we can turn that crystal again and again and again and see and validate a different story. And it can seem true or not true, right? It just depends on who we're being when we're creating that story. Are we rooted in lack, insecurity? Are we trying to validate something? It's like, when I was made that agreement, I want to know that I am the source of my love, power, and truth. I want to feel that. I want to know it. I want to embody that. Well, it gave me the opportunity to see all the ways that I tried to co-create experiences and stories to validate that that wasn't true, that the power was outside of me, that a person, circumstance actually held power over me. So when we bring consciousness to those experiences and merge more into the observer of that, we can see all those different sides of the story, right? And how we can shape shift within ourselves, because that's really a core part of belief. And that's why it's so wishy-washy. Belief is very unstable because it can shift and change. That is super dynamic, right? So it all just depends on who we're being in that process. When we can expand into the knowing aspect of our energetic spiritual nature that is eternal, all knowing, is the source, then we can experience it in a whole new way, in a whole like seeing the bigger picture of things and really resonating with the truth of what we know to be in our best interest, so to speak. So if you're experiencing, I know this showed up for me just as an example, like conflict within a story, should I stay or should I go, kind of thing. And you can always know, when the human nature is popping up, because you'll hear the shoulds or shouldn'ts and, have to, kind of thing. So just paying attention to language too, and that inner dialogue, which can actually keep you, stuck in the muck, so to speak. So if you want to get out of that, become the observer of that, then you're no longer attached to that spiral-like thinking that can be never ending, right? Because we can just flip that crystal around any which way and create a new story that validates whoever we're being in that moment. So if you can, merge with your spiritual nature and expand, right? It encompasses the self, that yin and yang circle, that level of mind, that lower level of mind is our physical part, and outside of our body and within us is our soul nature, right? It's here now, we're in it. And so that also relates to the magicking process, which is answering our soul's call to extraordinary living, abundance, vitality, fulfillment, true joy, true love, peace, all of those things that, we're inspired to experience within our lives, especially when we're rooted in the knowing of our worthiness, that it's inherently, an aspect of our nature. It's not separate from us. These things, these qualities, these life experiences that we're being pulled and nudged to, cultivate and experience in our lives are actually these impulses from our higher mind, the highest quality of excellence and trueness that we are invited to experience as part of our soul's evolution, to fill in that spectrum of life and vitality and just, the wholeness of who we really are. And so the mastery process, not project, the mastery process invites us to integrate our mind, the self, soul, and source aspect of us. And we do that by merging with our soul nature. And the way that we get to do that is by answering our soul's call, those intuitive impulses to grow, to stretch, to evolve, to step into new territory, to realize, our true potential. And when we do, we'll bump into the lower level of mind for integration purposes. So we can, invite that in, and we do that by releasing judgment. We see it. We know we can't change the physical, because inherent in that nature is going to be judgment, is going to be condition, is going to be, a swing and polarity, right? We see that, we know that, we understand it, so we can embrace it. And then by resourcing our higher mind, we can direct that energy in alignment with what we do want to create and shape with renewed awareness. So this is really where your power comes in, because once you can expand as the observer, see the polarity, see the judgment, see where the belief is, we can look at it and say, okay, how can I meet this energetically? I know what's in my best interest at this time, and then take action in alignment with that. And when we do, again, you'll have the opportunity to, dive into that lake of consciousness, explore the muck that's going to come up and surface. And it's happening in your favor to help clear that lens of perspective so you can come more from your soul nature and realize, as you're clearing away the muck, the reality, the truth of, who you really are in those moments. So, answering your soul's call will inevitably invite you into the mastery process. And as master metaphysicians and sovereign engineers of our life, we welcome these opportunities. We don't stay stuck in the muck. We embrace it, we resource it, right, for our highest good. We, can be at the top of this lake and choose to go down into the muck and come back up, right? We have free will, we have choice. We can say how long we want to stay in the muck and, come back up, resource it. Oh, I'm going to dive in. This is all energy, my thoughts, my emotions, my experiences, it's all energy. And when we can start to meet it more energetically, we merge more and more and more with the truth of who we are. So I thought I would just share a little bit about that. And when I'm talking about authentic power, it's that choice of, I'm choosing to liberate myself from these limits. So I'm going to say yes to my soul's call because I know inevitably all my fears are going to surface and I'll have the opportunity to transform those aspects of myself, embrace those aspects and then, resource them for my highest good. So you're not really throwing those parts away. You're not, destroying them per se, but you're resourcing, you're up-leveling them, you're exalting them into higher levels of truth, of quality, of vitality that's going to serve you in more ways than one. So I thought I would just, share a little bit about the mastery and magicking process and authentic power, being able to resource the elements, meet life energetically, liberate yourself, dive into the muck, and come back up. We don't, stay there in the muck. We don't use the shadow, we resource it for our highest good. And it really does. It's, it strengthens your courage. It strengthens your discipline of the mind, right? Noticing when you're in the spiral of story, as well as, invites you to reaffirm the truth of who you are, which is why it's necessary to understand the qualities of mind, the human nature rooted in polarity and judgment, and your spiritual nature, is whole, is abundant, is neutral, is accepting, is allowing, is guiding, so that you can reaffirm in those moments when you are in the muck, what is the truth here? And you can call on that spiritual nature to help you merge and expand. And in that, you invite more creative resources for you to navigate the unknown and realize that you are fully supported every time that you consciously and deliberately ask for guidance and resource it within yourself. Then you strengthen that muscle of navigating, unknown territory and stepping into your true potential. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I wish you well. And remember, you are the source of your love, power, and truth. I will just add, when I did the Creating Personal Magic Global event last year in 2021, that was a big stretch for me in business. I had so many fears. I had this like really grand impulse. I was like, this is going to be a quantum platform. I'm going to call people in and collaborate. I have no idea what's, going to happen. But I had this like inspired feeling, and I just, I knew it was something I wanted to do. Like it was answering my soul's call. And so I was open to explore this, and surrender to the process, resource my, creative intelligence to innovate, to, work in harmony and synergy with the people who said yes. And ultimately, it invited me to grow because, I was used to being small and hiding, so it required me to step outside my comfort zone, to be on camera, to interview people live, to read out loud, which was a really kind of a childhood fear of mine that I had had for the longest time because of, I guess just reading out loud was, somewhat of a traumatic experience for me in school. And I was reading these bios out loud, for each interview. So I got to sit in the discomfort of navigating through that threshold, calling on, my soul nature to embrace this human nature that was navigating the in between of crossing this threshold that was, limited in resources. But I knew how to call on my soul nature, my spiritual nature, to support me, to guide me, and stay present in the moment, which allowed me to cross these thresholds, right? And there were, 20 interviews that happened. So I got to do it again and again and again and again and again until, it became kind of a norm and fun, and, everything kind of loosened up. And that's really what happens in the mastery and magicking process. So we will always have room for growth. We will always have room to clear out the muck, to realize our true nature. And we invite that on our journey because we know, we're getting to know ourselves. We're moving into alignment. We're embodying more of the truth of who we are every time that we say yes. So wherever you are on your path, if you're feeling this real, urgency, this desire, this undeniable pull to say yes to a vision of yours, to surrender to that, I fully support you. And, it's not just for you, it's for the collective. And when you create these transformations within yourself, it creates a ripple effect throughout the world. So thank you for doing you, for being you. And remember, you are the source of your love, power, and truth. Thanks so much for joining me today. I wish you well.